if I'm hearing anything.
All right.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the first press conference, Caribbean Examinations Council for 2026. Acknowledging all media that is online and all those who are present here in Kingston, Jamaica. Thank you. With us this morning for a press conference are our speakers, Dr. Wayne Wesley, Registrar and CEO, CXC, Dr. Nicole Manning, Director of Operations, CXC, Mr. Heverton Hannam, President of the Caribbean Council for National Parent Teachers Association. The teams are supported from the CXC side by Mrs. Norlette Leslie Yard, Qualifications Management Department, Senior Manager, and online, Mr. Alton McPherson, who is Lead Special Projects for CXC. On the CCNPTA side, we have Mrs. Mitzi Dillon. Welcome, Mrs. Dillon. And she is Assistant Treasurer. And we also have Mr. Jacobs, who is Trustee for the CCNPTA. At this time, I would also like to acknowledge the presence of Mr. Hector Stevenson, Executive Director and Local Registrar at the Overseas Examination Commission. Welcome all, and I invite Dr. Wesley to begin with his statement.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Good morning all and welcome. Let me begin by wishing a happy and productive New Year to the members of the press and to thank you on behalf of the Board of Governors and staff of the Caribbean Examinations Council for being present here in Kingston, for joining us and those joining us online from across the region. I know the Caribbean is currently a zone of global attention, so I am grateful for you spending the time with us today. The Caribbean Examinations Council understands its assignment for the people of the Caribbean. We provide globally recognized certification services to advance the futures of learners of all ages. We have been executing this mission for over 50 years as a treaty organization of CARICOM. In like manner, the people of our region value the work of CXC. They have accepted with certainty that our world-class credentials open definitive pathways to higher learning and the world of work. It is with this sense of certainty and confidence that over 10,000 candidates are currently sitting the January 2026 CSEC examinations. These examinations commenced this past Monday and will conclude on the 29th of January. Timetable today are English B, Paper 2, and Human and Social Biology, Paper 2, and of course, I do wish all candidates best of luck. We are pleased to say that we are administering these January examinations employing our digital e-assessment and hybrid e-assessment approaches. It is our intention to offer all examinations digitally and in the context digitally in the next 3 to 5 years. Immediately after this January session of examinations, we will start preparing to serve the over 100,000 candidates who will likewise with likewise certainty and confidence, will sit over 600,000 CSEC and CAPE subject entries in the traditional May-June examinations. The work at CXC never stops. It was our intention to meet with the regional media on December 12 last year at the culmination of our successful governance meetings of Council in Port of Spain. Today, I take this opportunity to share some of the decisions and approved initiatives out of these meetings under three categories: CXC's regional disaster and business recovery protocols, seeking to answer the following questions. What are the systems and procedures in place to support CXC participating states affected by disasters in the context of our examination services? And how are we applying this protocol in support of Jamaica in the wake of Hurricane Melissa as directed by the Board of Governors? Secondly, we'll look at CXC's core business of learning and assessment. What are we doing to support the regional education system to improve learning across the region through enhanced numeracy and literacy standards? How are we seeking to impact learning and assessment at the primary level through our Caribbean Primary Exit Assessment? And at the secondary level, how are we doing with the piloting of our latest innovative initiative, the Caribbean Targeted Education Certificate, CTE? And importantly, what are we doing to deepen our relationship with parents and teachers to amplify their voices at the highest level of education policy development in the region? We are particularly proud of our collaboration with the Council of Caribbean National Parent Teachers Associations, which now has the opportunity to actively influence decision-making at the highest levels of CXC. We are pleased that Mr. Everton Anam, with the new chartered president of the CCNPTA, is with us, along with members of his executive, here and online. We will hear shortly from Mr. Anam. Thirdly, we'll speak about CXC's advocacy for education inclusion. How are we ascribing to the principles of learning inclusion as espoused in the WIPO Marrakesh Treaty to ensure that no learners and candidates in our examination system are left behind because of disability, particularly the VIPs, the visually impaired persons? With respect to these matters, these are the key decisions made by the Board of Governors of the Caribbean Examinations Council. The CXC Board of Governors has formally approved our long-established disaster and business recovery protocol, which governs how we respond when a participating CXC member state is affected by a disaster, be it hurricanes, floods, or volcanic eruptions, or other unusual events like civil disorders. These are the 6 steps in this protocol. 1, CXC initiates response and a statement of support for the affected participating state. Secondly, CXC then coordinates with the Ministries of Education in the assessment and recovery efforts. Third, the Council engages in wider stakeholder consultations that include parents, teachers, employers, and other crucial stakeholders. The CXC management then drafts recommendations and action plans for the board for consideration by the board. The board then reviews, ratifies, and then approves what CXC should implement in facilitating the region affected by the disaster. CXC then implements and engages in ongoing evaluation with the affected state. As we stand with Jamaica to recover from the unprecedented devastation and dislocation caused by Hurricane Melissa, the Council of CXC has approved an agreed plan of action with the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth, and Information in Jamaica. These are the action points for Jamaica-based candidates with respect to the upcoming CSEC and CAPE examinations. CXC will administer examination in its normal format for all schools and will offer the flexibility of using the modified approach to those schools negatively affected by the hurricane. Modifications and adjustments will be facilitated for Jamaican-based candidates with respect to school-based assessments. Secondly, late registration has been accommodated for candidates from schools negatively affected without any late fee requirements. Thirdly, CXC will extend the timeline for submission of SBAs for schools negatively impacted to June 15, 2026 without any late fee requirements. Then, all candidates based in Jamaica will receive their results in August 2026 with the rest of the region. In other words, there will be no delay. Where candidates register and pay for their examinations but no longer feel ready to sit the examinations, they can seek a refund or defer to another session in 2027. Dr. Manning has been meeting with ministry officials and school principals here in Jamaica and will break down the further discussion and talk that she has been having with them to accommodate these candidates in the May-June sitting. Let us now turn to the core business of CXC for improving learning and the assessment of learning in the region. I have here in hand two key resources, our learning standards, as well for literacy and numeracy, and our standards, performance criteria standards for our primary exit examinations. These two documents encapsulate the standards necessary for persons to be deemed proficient in these areas. So, in respect of the literacy and numeracy standards, this document encapsulates a guide that provides instruction and learning processes in our secondary schools across the region, targeting the first 3 years of school. In respect of the CPA, it is for learning and instruction at the primary level of the regional education system. It is aimed at achieving greater learning outcomes through the Caribbean Primary Exit Assessment and contains new targets and standards and performance criteria benchmarked against regional and international requirements. These two documents are available for the public to have access to, and they can be accessed online at our website. Ms. Norlette Yeard, our senior manager for our qualification management team, is here today and will provide you with further update as well as response to questions that you might have. I know over the last couple of months we did explain that we are offering the Caribbean, or piloting the Caribbean Targeted Education Certificate, and I know there has been sustained interest in our piloting of the CTEC examination. Here's a quick update as to where we are with that. We planned for the participation of 3,000 learners for the CTEC pilot. However, we have received over 6,443 candidates. This is oversubscribed by more than 50%, giving us an indication as to the extent to which this product is really being accepted by the region. It is actually being done in all 13 member states across 48 examination centers. And we have Mr. Alton McPherson online, who will provide us with further details as to the pilot implementation. And then I want to turn my attention now to the advocacy for persons with disability, particularly the visually impaired. As I shared several weeks ago at the regional WIPO workshop on the Marrakesh Treaty, CXC will actively advocate through ministries of education across the Caribbean for the adoption and implementation of this treaty to support accessible learning and to advocate for the needs of the visually impaired and printed disabled students. For the 2025 examination sit-in, CXC made special assessment arrangements for over 3,444 candidates with visual impairment and other special needs. As we continue to refine our approaches and technologies to enhance accessibility to our candidates for this year's and future years, we commit to ensuring that all candidates, regardless of ability, can participate fully and fairly. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the regional press, when all is said and done, CXC is guided by a renewed vision to ignite the potential and shape the future of our Caribbean people. By standing resiliently with stakeholders in the wake of disasters, improving our operational processes and efficiencies to deliver higher levels of customer service, and widening access to our services in inclusive ways for the disabled or differently abled, CXC is fulfilling its duty of care to people of our beloved region. We intend to have a remarkable and successful year in 2026, and we invite the entire region to partner with us. Thank you for your attention, and I will pause at this moment and invite Dr. Nicole Manning to make her remarks. Dr. Manning?
Good morning, everyone, and I'd like to join with the registrar in wishing you a happy new year and all the best for 2026. At this time, in following through with the further details regarding the strategy that will be used in administering the examinations for Jamaica, within Jamaica, I'd like to share some key components. Firstly, we took an approach, just wanting to make sure that I give you some visuals. Great. So the Caribbean Examinations Council, as Dr. Wesley mentioned, worked and met with several stakeholders, and it is the business of the council to do that. And as such, in our discussions, one of the very important points was to ensure that we had equity. As a big part of assessment, it's not so much, especially for Jamaica, uniformity, but equity. And that is the first principle that we had to hold firm on. Secondly, we had to ensure that we created the balance of compassion with the maintenance of fairness in the assessment. So the strategy that we designed, and Dr. Wesley mentioned in some components, it's not only uplifts those who struggled, but also maintain that sense of fairness for those individuals. And as such, for the CAPE and CSEC examinations, we have a general standard format where candidates will do the papers 1, which is the multiple choice, commonly known. Paper 2, constructed type questions. School-based assessment is the paper 3-2. Now that's the general format, but you do have examinations outside of that particular format. For example, the modern languages. He did mention also the flexibility of schools and candidates of schools in the negatively affected areas being facilitated through what we call the modified approach, CXC's modified approach. And that includes the use of the paper 1, that's the multiple choice, and the school-based assessment. So candidates will be graded on the paper 1 and the school-based assessment if selected to do the modified approach. Now, it's very important to note the individuals who fall under the schools that fall under this particular grouping. 1, you have several parishes, 7 parishes to be in particular. And of course, CXC would have done the collaboration with the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information. And we would like to say thanks. I know they're also joining us online. And we'd like to say thanks for the work and the collaboration that we were able to do. We did our situational assessment along with the ministry and the schools to get a better understanding as to the situation for each of these schools within the parishes. In line with that, we also did our own review in terms of the data that was present in Jamaica. And we are able to say that schools in Manchester, St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, Hanover, Trelawney, St. Anne will have the opportunity, that flexibility that our registrar spoke about, to do either the full normal standard assessment or the modified approach. There's a system in place as we work through our local registrar, I think our moderator mentioned earlier, Mr. Hector Stevenson, the head of the Overseas Examinations Commission, and I think it's very important for us to note that CXC has local registrars right across the region, and Mr. Stevenson is our local registrar within Jamaica. Now, we will work with our local registrar to ensure that we can identify these schools and we will manage accordingly. This is required, the submissions from the schools will be required by January 14th. So by January 14th, we will know the schools will be doing the full normal assessment versus the modified approach. Along with that, it was identified by the ministry that you do have special cases, very special cases, outside of those 7 parishes where students and schools may have had some devastation. And CXC will take that into consideration and provide that provision in terms of the facilitation of the use of the modified approach. I'd also like to add, lastly, that we will be utilizing, as Dr. Wesley mentioned, the treatment of the school-based assessment concessions. So we are offering to all students in Jamaica concessions for the school-based assessments. Now, this document I'm holding provides the details for all subjects, and it must be noted that for these this document, it is only valid for use in Jamaica, nowhere else in the region. So the concessions are particularly for Jamaica. This document will be available online for the ministries of education and for the schools in particular. So it will not, be available online. So it will just be going to the schools in Jamaica, and they have already been told that the document should not be shared. You can well imagine, and we know that there are students who have completed the process in terms of the school-based assessment, and that's fine because the teachers are the ones who would have been managing that process, and we know that they are capable of doing what is required. So I pause at this time just to make a few other notes following Dr. Wesley's statement. One, in relation to what's happening across the region, as Dr. Wesley would have mentioned, our disaster and business recovery strategy, it must be noted that CXC has also had a few experiences for the January 2026 examination with the recent cancellation of flights given the Venezuelan situation, and we were able to utilize the strategy that he mentioned in terms of the e-assessment and the hybrid e-assessment that we are able to facilitate those candidates. But I want to add that we have what is called our compassionate consideration, and that compassionate consideration allows CXC, if a candidate misses a paper, a component, paper 1, for example, to grade those candidates in spite of the fact that they had those hardships. Of course, it is evidence-based. It's not new. It's something that CXC has utilized in the past, and we continue to know that this particular facility will help the candidates in January 2026 as well as the May-June 2026 session. I want to say by closing that the recovery and continuity are two important components for growth. And thus we, at the Caribbean Examinations Council, are seeking to support the candidates and their parents in the continuity of their lives and livelihood, and in doing so, and in so doing, the economic growth of the region. Thank you. I now hand over to Mr. Hanam, Everton Hanam.
Thank you, Dr. Manning. Good morning, colleagues. Allow me to recognize the presence of Dr. Boyce, the CEO, Registrar of the CXC, Dr. Nicole Manning, Director of Operations. Allow me also to recognize members of my team that are here, Mr. Dylan Harris, our Assistant Treasurer, and Mr. Stuart Jacobs, Trustee, also President of the National Parent Teachers Association. Allow me kindly to recognize the presence of members of the executive that are online, and also, most importantly, the regional and local press present here this morning to bring the good news and to share the information that we have been having here so far. The establishment of the Caribbean Council of National PTA was a signal milestone with the support, tangible and intangible, of organizations including the Caribbean Examination Council and the Caribbean Development Bank. Let me use this opportunity to extend sincere thanks and appreciation to the team at CDB and, of course, CXC for the sterling work and support they have given us in allowing the Caribbean Council for National PTA to be formally established in October of 2025. The commitment of CXC is indeed tangible, as already we have been invited and are invited to participate as members of the Governing Council at their meeting held in Trinidad and Tobago last December, of which update would have been provided by Dr. Wesley. We also read strong endorsement from CARICOM, which speaks volume for the importance of this initiative. I'd like to recognize the CCNPT executive, the region. Our dedication to education is truly inspiring. PTAs are the backbone of our education system, bridging the gap between parents, teachers, and students. The importance, therefore, of this gathering underscore what is needed as how we proceed. The proactive reaction of CXC in ensuring that no child is left behind in the education process is commendable. Our partners, CXC, CDB, CARICOM, and all Parent Teachers Association across the region is commendable. As we move forward, I'd like to congratulate CXC on their proactive role and their commitment in making education a difference. The CC and PTA pledges to work closely with the CXC and other stakeholders in the region. The CC and PTA is more than just an organization. It is a movement toward ensuring transformation of education in our region. Let us collaborate in this initiative as we work towards ensuring that our Caribbean and our students in the Caribbean is not left behind. Commendations to the team at CXC, and we look forward to closer and more fraternal engagement and collaboration as we ensure that the program that you have outlined in your presentation, Dr. Wesley and Dr. Manning, is brought forward and endorsed by all of us. Thank you.
Much, Dr. Hanam, Dr. Wesley, Dr. Manning. At this time, I remind members of the media in posting your questions, please indicate your name and the media house you represent and country, as I know that we do have from across the region online. I would like to open by asking those persons who are face-to-face in attendance, do we have any questions from the floor? Okay.
Hi, good morning. Khaleesi Wright from Nationwide News. I stepped in a bit late. I don't know if Dr. Manning could expound a little further on the SBA concessions. What does that document include? Also, you said that the submissions of the schools will be January 14. What are some of the things that the CXC will look at to determine whether or not these schools should go ahead with the full taking of the examination or the modified version?
Thank you for your question. So let me start with the last question first. The principals, we trust and we know that our principals know best. I want to start with that. The Caribbean Examinations Council, along with the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information, we shared what we called our situational assessment template. We created a template to collect data from the schools, and in so doing, the schools would have indicated where they were in the process of completion of school-based assessment as well as learning. So we providing that information allowed CXC to understand the situation on the ground. So the analysis from that and the discussions with the Ministry of Education as well as the principals gave us confidence that there were two things that were necessary. One, you had approximately 37% of the island that meet, I should say, the number of centers within the island that would not have been ready for full assessment. But augmented with that information, the principals have since indicated that there are some subjects, some areas that the students are very advanced. So you have schools within the western area that may have been affected, but the schools have shown their resilience, and along with the Ministry of Education, and they have indicated that they may be ready for the full sitting of the examination. So that's why we gave them the flexibility, given that information coming out of those 7 parishes. So they do have that flexibility. So it is really data-driven in terms of that decision. I would like to also add, in relation to the school-based assessment, we made the decision because we are aware that, before I go into the details of the school-based assessment concessions, one, The school-based assessment is done over a 2-year period. So CXC is aware that some candidates are complete. In fact, the principals did indicate in some instances that the candidates were very advanced for some schools. But we are also conscious that students lost their SBAs through water, that they lost their homes and other things. And so we had to take that into consideration as a part of our duty of care. And so in the document itself, it speaks to the details as to what components can be removed from the process if a candidate is redoing his or her SBA. We also offered a concession this year in relation to the number of labs that need to be completed. In the past, we had, say for example, may have 16 labs for physics. It may be reduced to, we would say, a minimum of 8, but you do have guidelines as to what you need to do in line with completing those labs. So where the candidates, they have now 3 or 4 months to complete. Those that are advanced, we are okay with that. But we are saying to those schools, you can also use the concession. Then you have the schools that are really battling. We are saying to them, consider every detail that's in this document and try as hard as possible to allow the students to complete the school-based assessment. So the document is very detailed. I'd like to add, though, at this point in time, that there are 7 subjects that will not have the use of the modified approach. I should have mentioned that earlier. And those we will share, as well as we share it with the schools, but those include CSEC Theatre Arts, CSEC Music, CSEC Home, Human and Social Biology, Physical Education and Sports, as well as CAPE Performing Arts. And as you hear the subjects being called, you can well imagine why, because they're very competency-based subjects, and CXC, as you know, take that very seriously. So we will provide the further details, but those subjects will not be offered utilizing the modified approach. As Dr. Wesley mentioned, those candidates, if it is that they, for any reason they feel that they're ill-prepared at the point closer to examination, they can defer or they can seek for a refund. I hope that clarifies.
Alicia, that answers the question. Okay. This time, I invite members of the media online. Do we have any questions online? Team? Okay. All right. Just a sec. That's it. All right. While we await that, is there anybody else, anyone else in person? Any other follow-up questions? Any other queries? No? I'm checking. All right. I do see that we do have some persons from or small. All right, that's about it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. We're asking, okay, I do have a query to speak a little bit more about the numeracy and literacy standards for the revision of that. Can you get some more detail? Mrs. Yard?
Sure. Thanks for that question. Good morning to those who are joining us online or face-to-face here. The CXC, as we looked at the performance of candidates in our CSEC English and our CSEC Mathematics, we realized, and it's been an issue over time, that the underperformance or the achievement gaps in those subjects are of great concern. And a part of what we're doing to try to address that issue is to develop these literacy and numeracy standards. And Dr. Wesley mentioned that they are designed to be administered at the lower secondary level. And that's deliberate because as students exit primary, we tend to have a very good image of the profile of these candidates at the end of primary. But as they enter secondary, there is a gap between those first 3 years and the final 2 years when they interface with the CXC products. And those CXC products at the end of 5 years typically represent the first set of standardized assessment that students will experience over a 5-year period. And so we felt that designing and developing these literacy and numeracy standards pitched at the lower secondary level will provide ministries of education, teachers, students themselves with the tools to help to gauge students' progress in these areas. And also to support the design and development of interventions that are tailored to meet the specific gaps that exist in students. And so the standards are new. They may be used to support the design of diagnostic assessment, and these diagnostic assessments could be used to establish the baseline for students' literacy and numeracy, and then using that baseline, design interventions to cater to students' specific needs. CXC will publish these and make them available to our member states so that they can use them to design and to drive instructions at the classroom level.
Thank you for that, Mrs. Yeard. Follow-up clarification. So is it that member states will then reach out to CXC to provide additional support or guidance if they wish to access the guidance, the standards?
The standards will be made available on our website, as all our other syllabuses are available and may be accessed for free download, and member states can use it based on their needs.
Yes, I also want to just add to that clarification, because a part of what we are doing is also empowering the wider education system to be able to offer services that will meet the needs of our ministries of education. So for those individuals who want to use our standards, we are working through a set of licensing arrangement for persons to use our standards. We can, through our what we have called our product innovation model, through our quality assurance process, or proxy process, to certify and quality assure the work they are doing to ensure that once these standards are implemented, they are implemented in a way that will redound to the benefit of the students. We are aware that a lot of entities across the region do have AI capabilities, and how they will be incorporating those AI capabilities with respect to the utilization of these standards for learning and assessment activities. Then we will quality assure that and give them what we call our quality assurance seal of approval, and that will be through some licensing arrangement in that regard. However, that being said, the standard itself will be available, but if persons want to get recognition for the work being done, then through our proxy product innovation model, we will facilitate that work.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wesley. The next query is directed to Mr. Alton McPherson, and it's asking for some details and clarifications on the CTEC pilot process. Mr. McPherson? Mr. McPherson, could you have some volume, please? Yes, much better. Thank you.
Good morning again. So in May, June 2026, during the administration of the regular exam, CXC will pilot CSEC Mathematics Module 1 within the Caribbean Targeted Education Certificate Program. There are 13 territories that have accepted to participate in this pilot, as indicated previously by the registrar. These territories include Anguilla, Antigua and Barbuda, Barbados, Belize, Cayman Islands, Dominica, Guyana, Grenada, Jamaica, Montserrat, Saba, St. Kitts, and St. Lucia. We have so far held stakeholder engagement with all territories. They were all present, as well as teachers, principals from all centers. We, as the registrar indicated earlier, we had 48 centers participating from 13 territories. Now, the candidates, 6,453 candidates, those candidates will be engaged during the period January to March. And that engagement will include the orientation to the Surpass platform, which is a platform that will be used to administer the paper 1 electronically and the paper 2 by hybrid. They will also be introduced to practice tests through the same Surpass platform. Also, during the period January to March, the candidates will be registered using our new registration platform. So, which means that these candidates participating in the pilot would not have been registered with the regular candidates during the previous registration period. Following March, January to March period, so within the period March to April, we will again work with the centers to ensure that the candidates have uploaded their SBAs. They all have their timetables downloaded. We also ensure that there's compliance with the e-test readiness so that we don't have a challenge on the day of the exam, and to ensure also that all candidates complete their practice test. Now, during July to August, as we intend to have the results from the CTEC pilot being addressed at the same time during the release of results, during July to August, we'll conduct our final assessments and collect personal data. We will gather all qualitative feedback, as there may be something that we have not thought about, or there may be something that turns up on the day of the exam that would help us in addressing and to ensure that this does not happen during the rollout in June 2027. We'll also analyze data to determine effectiveness and have the results released during the normal release of the CSEC results in August. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you very much, Mr. McPherson. Follow-up query on that has to do if you're able to share how many students of that 6,453 are from Jamaica.
There are 1,334 candidates from Jamaica, 9 centers.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
The next query has to do with the CPEA standards and performance criteria that Dr. Wesley had mentioned. The query is, does it go into effect immediately? If not, when?
Thanks for that, Michelle. So the standards will be ready for implementation and for teaching beginning September 2026.
Okay. Thank you very much. I now go back online. Do we have any other queries, any other questions? No? Okay. I think that we are just about... Okay, hold on. Okay, here we go. So we have a query from Miss Lee of Guardian Media. That's Carissa Lee of Guardian Media in Trinidad. I'm wondering if we could get more on the candidates affected by the flight's cancellation due to the U.S. attack on Venezuela. How many candidates had to utilize the e-hybrid assessment? And this is a query from Trinidad.
So thanks for the question. Let me just note that the good thing about January 2026 is that we have over 70...
Dr. Manning, we're not hearing you.
Okay. All right, let me go again. Are you hearing?
Yes.
Thank you. So the good thing about January 2026 examinations is that The exams are facilitated using the electronic assessment. Dr. Wesley had mentioned it earlier, as well as what we call our hybrid e-assessment. So the paper twos are done with a mixed modality where the question appears on screen and the candidates answer within a answer booklet in their normal format. And for the paper one, that's the multiple choice component, the candidates select their options. I'm starting with that because all candidates within the region were required to sit examinations using that modality. The highlight on the flight cancellation is twofold. One, where candidates are somehow stranded in a particular country, the flexibility of the electronic assessment allows CXC to work with that candidate, depending on where they are, and the consulate. This is not new to us. There are times when we have to facilitate assessments in another country. Candidates travel for sports sometimes, very often, and we do facilitate assessments at the consulates. So it's a secure way of facilitating the administration of the assessment electronically. So over 17,000 candidates are doing exams in January, and that will be something that will be facilitated. So the candidates are cancelled. It's twofold. One, whether they are going to be stranded in a country, we facilitate assessment wherever they are. Secondly, I did mention also that the candidates, in the case that they are not able to do the exam, they can apply for what we call our compassionate consideration, and CXC works through our local registrar in that regard.
Thank you very much, Dr. Manning. The next question comes from Patterson Abraham, and it is relating to the CPEA standards. The question is, have we had sufficient stakeholder engagement, or are there plans to do engagements for implementation in September 2026?
Yes, thanks for that, Mr. Abraham. Yes, we do intend to have our regular teacher orientation workshops that will help the teachers who will be implementing the CPA standards to become aware of the revised standards and to also become aware of any other changes that are made to the CPEA. Those teacher orientation workshops will be organized by the CXC PLI, and the dates will be communicated with our local registrars and with the ministries of education across the region.
Okay, we do have a follow-up query on the second part to that question, Mrs. Yard. How much alignment is there to the new DOHPC, which is the Digital OECS Harmonized Primary School Curriculum for the OEC territories?
Thanks for that. We did engage extensively with the OECS. We had representatives sitting on the committees that revised the standards, and we also got feedback, extensive feedback from the OECS based on the standards that were developed. So there is great harmonization between the CPEA standards and the standards that are embedded in the new curriculum.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Yard. I now invite Mr. Hanam. Comments?
Yes, thank you. I sat here and I listened to the work that is being done, to be done by CXC. And I marvel because being a GCE child, we didn't have that possibility. And I really want to commend CSEC for the work that they've been doing and the extent to which they're rolling out programs and examinations that are compatible for the region. My question, therefore, is many of our students look towards other jurisdictions for their tertiary education within and outside our region. The compatibility, therefore, of acceptance of all the new addition that CXC is bringing on, how compatible will it be to those for entering the tertiary studies in different locations, not necessarily up north, because our students are now looking further. We had some students some time ago in Ukraine And so therefore our students have now expanded their tertiary education venture. We have students in Brazil, there are students in Cuba, and all over. So I just wanted to see how have we begun to engage these institutions at the tertiary level to see the compatibility so there are no challenges, and that will allow more avenues for our students to seek tertiary studies, not just within North, but outside of North and in other locations. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm smiling, Mr. Hanam, because we have been doing a lot of work with our international partners. And these persons I'm speaking of, I had to just try and make sure I'm remembering the acronym very well. The Association for Credential Evaluation Professionals, TICEP. And this group this group includes not only credential evaluators such as WES, ECE, those that you are more familiar with, but it also includes our universities. And these are universities across the world. In our last conversation and presentation that CXC made in October, when we went to the conference, we saw at least 6 other entities making presentations about CXC. And these entities were from Asia, they were from Europe. When I heard that we had candidates going to Turkey, and just name it, some places I didn't even hear about before, it was very heartening. And what was heartening about it is the confidence that they had in the qualifications and the certification that the candidates brought to them from the Caribbean Examinations Council. Our candidates go to the Yales, they go to the Oxfords, you name them. And we have candidates who are sponsored through scholarships. Not only their scholarships for their country, but also they are successful because they apply for scholarships outside of the country. So those candidates in Ukraine, I currently have a request. My local registrar here would be smiling because I didn't even know that persons are gone back to school in Ukraine. And we do have candidates there who take not only the regular CAPE and CSEC, but for those who may not know that CXC also offers CAPE diplomas and or associate degrees. And they are so happy for these because candidates do get exemptions when they utilize them, as well as they utilize them for what we call, for example, the associate degree 2+2, where once you have the associate degree, you're only required to do 2 additional years. So this is telling me too, Dr. Wesley, that we will need to do quite a bit more, and we had discussions that this is the year to speak about our post-secondary qualifications. We had that discussion before, and we are happy to announce, Mr. Hanam, that yes, all of these other countries, all of these universities are currently accepting the qualifications from CXC. Last point, I will say the innovations that we have here presented. We shared some of those also. And I had one of our participants said to me they would want us to come to Rome and to present the innovations that we have. It is telling me that the Caribbean is doing good stuff. We are doing very good activities that we share. Our standards and guidelines, Dr. Wesley would have known, when they presented it in Africa this year, they were really swept away by the fact that the Caribbean had a standards and guideline for the use of artificial intelligence in assessment that our candidates can use with confidence. So we continue to share with them, and we know that not only sharing in terms of the development, but we know that they would also be very happy to work with us as they themselves advance in these areas.
Mrs. Yaird?
Yes, and to add to Dr. Manning's response, to share that we have developed a matriculation and equivalency handbook that will be shared with our stakeholders this year. And the primary purpose of that handbook is to provide greater clarity for our stakeholders, especially those who are not as familiar with the products that we offer, so that they can better understand and interpret what the qualifications mean. Embedded in that handbook is a description of the credit system that we have designed to accompany the qualifications that we have. And so with that information, universities, evaluation agencies, etc., are in a better position to read, understand, and interpret what our qualifications mean, and importantly, help our students to benefit from these qualifications as they seek to matriculate into higher education.
Thank you for that, Mrs. Sierra. The follow-up query on that is a specific timeline for when it would be available, and would it be similar to how the standards are on our website for persons to access, or will there be a different system for those universities to access?
We will have a communication strategy to implement the handbook, but certainly for accessibility, we'd want to ensure that it is available on the familiar places that people go to access our information, our website being one of those. We are working to have that finalized and be ready for first quarter.
Let me just add one point there, is that we have also committed to create a portal that will have some dedicated resources to the universities and the credential evaluators, so that, and that's another innovation for CXC, so that they can, in utilizing the handbook, they can also understand, get behind all the details in terms of facilitating their own evaluation. Because we do a lot of work with them, but we want to formalize it through a portal for our evaluators and universities.
Thank you very much. We have no further questions online. We have no further questions in the room. Dr. Manning, I believe you have one item before I then invite Dr. Wesley to close out.
So just to state that you would have recalled after the Hurricane Melissa, or during that period, CXC was poised to have our first conference, regional education conference. And unfortunately, we had to postpone that conference. So that conference has been rescheduled for the 16th and the 8th to the 18th of March 2026. Along with that, we had our 5th ministerial summit planned that would have started the week, and that is also scheduled for the 19th of March. So we have already shared with our delegates that information, and even some of the information that we are sharing today, we will be sharing in that conference. And you can well imagine the energies that we will have in terms of the work that we are prepared to share and the work that we will do. It's not only about educators. I'm happy that our CCA and PTA is here because they were also invited to that conference, and we are hoping that they'll be able to make it. It is in Jamaica. It will be at the Pegasus Hotel between the 16th to the 18th of March 2026. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. CXC taking its responsibility as a critical player within the education landscape of the region, ensuring that we provide for the Caribbean people solid certification that is internationally recognized. We also recognize that it is not possible for us to do it alone, and the fact that we have the new Caribbean Council of National Parent Teachers Association with us is a new era in CXC where we are becoming inclusive in our decision-making framework, and that will ensure that whatever we do, it is really in the best interest of our students. It's not for any particular personal or entity to feel as if, you know, they are the focus. The focus is really on our students, and whatever we do must redound to their benefit. And so I'm looking forward to the contribution from our Caribbean Council of National Parent Teachers Association to the work we have been doing at CXC and to continue the advocacy that we have put forward for persons with disability, the visually impaired persons, that we should begin to make all learning material and learning facilities available to this group. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really pleased that the staff of the Caribbean Examinations Council have really been putting in the work to ensure that we remain relevant to our Caribbean people. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to members of the media who have joined us online, those who are here in person. Ladies and gentlemen, have a good rest of the day. Thank you.
Record.